Podcast Network.
Hello and welcome to Whining About Herstory, a podcast where two longtime gal pals chug wine and talk about women from history you may not have heard of. I'm Kelley.
I'm Emily, and I am seething right now.
And I'm sorry I didn't do a singing intro like Emily last time.
No, that is totally fine because I do not have the energy for that kind of nonsense right now.
Maybe next week.
We just spent 20 minutes fucking with our sound settings, and you know what finally worked? Nothing. I just messed around and tried the same combination of settings over and over until finally the god was like,
yeah,
okay.
You can record now.
Yeah, just fucking awful. So, but I'm really excited to record with you and to hang out with you. And it's a little weird for us this week.
Yeah, we're recording on a work night, which is unusual.
So that means we're not gonna be able to get sloppy.
Yeah, and we're repeating a wine.
You know what, though? We're just fucking green like that because we will leave no wine bottle with a drop in it. We will leave no glass unturned. We will drink until the last drop, god damn it.
So on that note, we are re-drinking our sangria from last week.
You know what? It's still fucking delicious. Really, it is beautiful, juicy wine. And I mean, cheers.
Yeah, well, to that.
We should cheers to something special other than reusing our wine.
Our sound working?
Okay. Cheers to our sound working. Clink. It's still good. I'm still a fan.
All right. So I will be doing our Say Their Name this week. And I'm going to be saying the name of Zanili Muhali.
Tackled that like a champ.
Yeah. She's a South African photographer and self-described visual activist. For almost 20 years, they have been documenting Black, lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and intersex South Africans, many of whom have suffered homophobic violence, oppression, and erasure in their communities. You should definitely look her up. Like, her photos are just really stunning. Like, she just portrays them really beautifully. And this is a quote from her. There are so many good, brilliant, professional, talented, queer Africans who have left the continent because they have been mocked, violated, displaced, and oppressed. Let everybody in Africa be free. That's why I picked up a camera. I didn't want someone else to tell my story. I wanted to teach the next queer child that it's okay to be.
That's really sweet.
Yeah, they seem really neat.
So, remember when I saw Jaws a couple weeks ago?
Yes.
So the theater in town, it's like a little micro theater, and they play classics and Sundance stuff and just kind of whatever the hell they feel like.
Yep.
And they had a trailer for a movie that won real big at the Sundance Film Festival, I think. Fuck, I'm blanking on the name, but it was basically about, I think it took place in, I want to say Nigeria, but basically there are these two young girls coming of age and they're in love with each other.
Aww.
And it's about them having to cope with their feelings for each other and not being accepted.
Yeah.
And I almost started to cry during the trailer. So I'm like, I really want to see this, but I need to make sure I'm in a really healthy place.
Right. And this Zanili Muhali, who's South African, last week Botswana made history when it overturned its colonial-era laws criminalizing consensual same-sex relations.
Hell yes.
Which came after Kenya decided to uphold its laws criminalizing carnal knowledge against the order of nature.
I'm sorry, what do they call it?
Carnal knowledge against the order of nature.
What the fuck?
Yeah.
What the fuck?
Come on, Kenya.
But
get
your
job,
shit
Botswana.
Together. Kenya, get your poops in a group. I just heard that. It's like it's a kid-friendly way of saying get your shit together.
Nice.
So if we ever made kid-friendly episodes, we would be saying, guys, get your poops in a group.
That's funny. But yeah, so I just wanted to say their name and go check them out.
That's awesome. Well,
in case people are wondering why I keep saying they, them, that is their preferred pronouns. It is one person.
Oh, okay. Well, and see, even when we started Say Their Name, we specifically did their name because we didn't want to be exclusionary to men who are killing it,
Right.
or non-binary people who are killing it.
Yep.
Like,
but yeah, when I was saying like their photography, yeah, like that's the pronouns they prefer.
all right, well, cheers to them. Clink.
Double clink because I set my glass down too hard.
God, I am demolishing this wine.
I know, it's good.
It might as well be water.
That's what you said last week too.
I know, because there's no dryness, there's no bite.
It's very good.
Boozy grape juice.
Yes.
Which is amazing. Okay, so before I get started, I have a question for you, Kelley.
Okay.
Did you set up our Twitter?
No. I totally was thinking about it yesterday too, and I'm like, fuck, I need to do that. And then I never did.
It's okay, because I forgot until I was editing
And
like
you're
our
like,
last episode. It's like, I put it at the top of my notes so I would remember to ask you.
You're not supposed to remember these things.
I know. Okay, so this is our last week of Pride.
Yep.
These will not be the last LGBTQ plus figures we cover.
No.
But, you know, for Pride.
Yes. For
Until
Pride.
next year.
Until next year.
Okay, so I am covering Tallulah Bankhead.
She's mentioned in mine.
Okay, we were chatting a little bit earlier about, we didn't say who we were doing, but we were just kind of chatting.
You told me who you were doing.
Well, I did because
we had a close miss last week.
We had a nearly head-on collision. We like swiped each other last week, so I was fucking terrified.
Yeah. I just thought it was funny because your texts were like, I'm going to do this person, and then a little while later, no, I think I'm going to do this person, and the last text was like, no, I changed my mind. This is who I'm doing.
So I was going to cover Audre Lorde because she is a prolific feminist and gay rights activist. She's the one that came up with like intersectional feminism and activism.
Cool. Yeah.
But I was running out of time, and the more I got into her story, the more I was like,
I need time.
I need time. There is so much to this lady because she's a writer, she's an activist. Like, there's so much. I'm like, I can't dishonor her this way by just slapdashing this story together. So I decided to cover Tallulah Bankhead because she is a golden age of Hollywood actress. And I thought her story would be a little easier for me to digest. But good God, it got so fucking long.
Yeah.
So that's why I was texting Kelley manically, being like, I'm doing this person. Just kidding, I'm doing this person. Okay, so I'm covering Tallulah Bankhead, the ambisextrous actress.
I like that.
We will get into it.
Ambisextrous.
And I'm not just pulling that out of my ass.
No. I mean, it's essentially bi because...
Well...
Ambisextrous, you go both ways. Because ambidextrous is you can use both hands.
Yeah, I mean, I think it could be for pan, too.
Yeah,
you know,
it's
it's like you're an equal opportunity partner. Okay. Tallulah was born on January 31st, 1902 in Huntsville, Alabama on her parents' second wedding anniversary. Happy anniversary, you got a second kid. Her father...
It's their own fault at that point.
Yes. I like to think they planned it out and like Tallulah was going to come the day before and mom just held her in and was like, no, this is going to be so special. Her father was from a political family and active in the Democratic Party and actually became the Speaker of the United States House of Representatives.
That's cool.
That was a lot of S's.
Yeah.
Funny story about her parents. They met when her mother, who was engaged to another man, went to Huntsville, Alabama to pick up her fucking wedding dress. It was love at first sight, and we try not to think about her poor fiancé.
So they pulled like the end of The Notebook, minus like knowing each other when they were young.
Oh, I guess they did because she was engaged to the army guy.
Alert.
If you haven't seen that fucking movie, I don't care.
It's
I don't
great.
feel bad for you. I hate that movie.
Yeah, but we recreate the one jump scene all the time.
That is the only part of that movie I
As long
love.
as you're not wearing a sweatshirt.
Okay, this one time. Side note, it was raining, and Kelley and I were like, we're going to do the scene from The Notebook. So I ran at her full force and leapt into her arms.
And it was beautiful.
It was beautiful, except I was wearing a hoodie, and the zipper from the hoodie hit her like right in the teeth.
Yeah, it
It was
quite painful.
It was a
I
problem.
still caught her, though.
Because you'll never
Yeah,
let me down, baby. You got me and I got you. I love you.
I love you too.
Okay, so 3 weeks after Tallulah was born, her mother died from sepsis.
Oh.
Fucking bummer. This apparently ran in the family because Tallulah's mother's mother also died after giving birth.
Oh.
Yeah. On her deathbed, Tallulah's mother told her sister-in-law to take care of Tallulah's older sister, but that Tallulah would always be able to take care of herself, which is a pretty ballsy thing to say about your
3-week-old daughter.
2-week-old baby. Yeah. I can just sense it. She was a fighter. She didn't want to come out. She'll be fine.
Right. She's got this.
She's got this. She could just sense it. Tallulah was baptized next to her mother's coffin in the saddest and most metal baptism ever.
That, I guess back then you probably had to save money, but still, Jesus Christ.
You know, it's just so hard to get everyone together. Everyone's schedule is a mess. It's like, no, okay, this date works for everyone. We're getting it all
We're
done.
doing both.
One day.
Same time.
Yes. Her cousin got married afterwards.
The big old thing.
Yep.
And you only have to have one potluck afterward, too.
Exactly.
Not 3.
That way you don't have to make 2 hot dishes.
Right? It'd be 3. If there's a wedding, it'd be 3 hot dishes.
Oh my God, that's too much hot dish.
That's too much hot dish.
There's not
Who takes
enough.
home the leftovers?
There's not enough tater tots in the world for all that hot dish. Devastated by the loss, Tallulah's father was largely unable to care for his children. He was depressed. He
Despondent. Yeah,
went
that
into
kind of thing.
alcohol. Which, like, as
Woo.
much as we love drinking, we never recommend drinking to solve your problems
No,
because it
please
doesn't
don't.
work. Excuse me, I just had to take a sip of my wine to deal with how sad this gets. So, because their father was unable to take care of them, they were primarily raised by their paternal grandmother, whom Tallulah was named for.
Aw.
So, Grandma Tallulah. Tallulah was considered to be a homely child and overweight.
Aw.
Because of this, she was overshadowed by her traditionally attractive sister, who is tall and skinny and bouncy and whatever. In an effort to get attention, Tallulah got creative. She learned to sing, cartwheel, dance, recite literature, do imitations, and just generally perform and entertain. When that didn't work, she went to Plan B, which was throwing epic goddamn tantrums, in which she would hold her breath until her face turned blue.
Wow.
This kid was dedicated.
Yeah.
She was thirstier for attention than 2 people with a podcast are.
Ah.
To combat these tantrums, her grandmother would throw a bucket of water on her.
That's fantastic.
That's just some good old early 1900s parenting right there.
Stop throwing a tantrum.
There was a parenting book, and there was a whole chapter on throwing water on your
What it solves,
screaming child.
which is
Yeah.
probably a lot of things.
You know,
Can't get your
throwing,
kid out of bed? Throw water on them. Can't get your kid to do this? Throw water on them.
failing in the classes, throw water on them. Have the mumps, throw water on them.
It's like Windex.
Yeah,
Cures
it's
everything.
It's Windex. As a child, Tallulah was sickly and had chronic bronchitis, which resulted in a husky voice. She would later be known for this sultry, husky, sexy voice later on. Later, Tallulah would say her first performance was for the Wright brothers. Yes, the ones with the plane. I mean, I performed for my parents or neighbors or other, like, lay people. But yeah, go and perform for these, like, revolutionary dudes.
Yeah. Have fun.
Fucking
Just
privilege.
don't get on their first planes. Wait a few years.
Oh, God. So her aunt had hosted them at a party, and Tallulah performed for them by imitating her kindergarten teacher. And even though I'm sure no one knew who the fuck her teacher was, which I feel like that's what makes it funny.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so Mrs. So-and-so.
Right. I guess it depends on how small the town was or something. Yeah.
She was the Wright brothers kindergarten teacher. She's fucking ancient.
Right.
She's just
Everyone
hanging on
knows
out of
who she
spite.
is.
So she won a prize awarded to her by the Wright brothers.
Aw.
Yeah, super cute.
Never throw that away.
As Tallulah and her sister got older, they were becoming harder for their grandmother to handle. So in 1912, when Tallulah was 10, She and her sister were enrolled in a convent school. Excuse me while I repress all my Catholic school memories and just try to power through here.
I'm just going to take a swig of wine.
Yep. Although we went to Catholic school, we did not go to convent school, which in the early 1900s, which I feel like is a whole new
also
level.
Went to convent school.
What the fuck?
Like you said that, and then I'm like, huh, that's in my notes too.
Tallulah began to mature into a beautiful Southern belle, and while her sister married at 16, what? It's way too young.
Yeah.
She's like Ariel from The Little Mermaid. I'm 16, Daddy. I love him. And then as an adult, you're like, Ariel, honey, you're 16. You don't know anything.
Shut the fuck up.
So while her sister got married young, Tallulah decided to pursue an acting career.
Good for her.
My next section is titled Lights, Camera, Action.
I was hoping it would be like Lights, Camera, Tallulah.
Ooh, that's a billion times better. Okay, this section is titled Lights, Camera, Tallulah, and I came up with that all by myself.
Copyright Emily.
See, empowered women empower women. Always. When a magazine called Picture Play ran a beauty contest that would award winners a trip to New York and a part in a movie, Tallulah submitted her photo. However, in a classic Emily move, she forgot to submit her name and address with it. So she just sends in a picture. No contact information, no inkling of who she is. When the magazine announced the winners, they included Tallulah's picture with the tagline, "Who is she?" Tallulah only found out she was a winner when she saw this in the magazine. Winning the contest turned out to be a non-starter. She went to New York, had a minor part in a movie called Who Loved Him Best, and was paid $75 for her work.
Woo.
Yeah, I mean, that's not bad for just submitting your fucking picture and not even fulfilling.
You got a trip to New York.
And not even fulfilling the basic requirements of the goddamn contest. Like, if I was choosing, I would have thrown that shit out. Like, I'm not hunting your fucking ass down.
Or it would have just been you put it in there, and then if she contacts you, great, she can have it. If she doesn't, yeah, so what?
Yeah.
Now we don't have to fly someone to New York. Actually, back then, you know,
train
travel to New York.
We don't have to pay you 75 fucking bucks.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm going to go out and buy a house. However, she did fall in love with New York and decided to stay.
Aww.
She moved into the Algonquin Hotel, which was the it spot for artsy-fartsy elite. She found a home as a member of the Algonquin Round Table, which sounds like the cool table in high school, as it was comprised of Estelle Winwood, Ava Le Gallienne, and Blythe Daly, all stylish, elite, lesbian, or bisexual actresses.
I was gonna say, I've heard of Blythe Daly before.
Yeah, that was the one. I'm like, that sounds familiar. Tallulah is known to have had a relationship with Eva. I think it's Eva. It's EVA. I know people pronounce it.
I think it's Eva.
Like the lazy E, the Eva, but then there's Ava.
Yeah, I don't think it's Ava.
Eva. Okay.
Eva. We'll go with Eva. Eva.
Stick around for 10 more minutes while we talk about this 3-letter name real quick. When Tallulah moved to New York, her father warned her to stay away from alcohol and men. She later remarked, he didn't say anything about women and cocaine.
All right, that's great.
We are not endorsing cocaine use, but damn, what a queen.
That is fantastic.
That sounds like something I would say.
Right? Like you said, alcohol and men. I'm doing women and cocaine. It's completely different.
Yeah. It's, if you didn't want me to be with women and do cocaine, then you should have said so.
Right? That wasn't in the contract.
My poor, depressive, alcoholic father.
Right.
While partying with the Algonquin Round Table, Tallulah didn't drink, but she did indulge in cocaine. And pot.
All right.
She would say that, quote, cocaine isn't habit forming, and I know because I've been taking it for years. This lady.
I feel like that has to like have a hint of sarcasm to it.
This lady is like larger than life, too much, too cool for the room,
She's
everything.
Fantastic. Yeah.
Like, I was like briefly reading on her before I committed. Yeah. And when I got to the metal baptism, I was like, okay, this gal has to have an interesting life. And I was not disappointed. At parties, Tallulah would introduce herself saying, I'm a lesbian. What do you do? It was this and her general quippiness that gained her the reputation as one of the great wits of Manhattan. So she's just snarky and sarcastic and brilliant, and I love her.
Yeah, she would be fun.
And I love that, like, oh, what do you do? I'm a lesbian. What do you do? Like, especially in the,
right.
early 1900s, it's like, oh, you don't fucking say that. But she's like,
whatever.
I got cocaine in one hand and a lady in the other, and I'm good to fucking go. Tallulah had roles in a variety of silent movies and on stage. The only production she was in that I'd heard of was Footloose from 1919, which I didn't realize is 100 fucking years old.
Yeah, I didn't either. That's insane.
If it's the same Footloose I'm thinking of, it could have been different. I didn't look.
Footloose? Yeah, I don't know.
Despite being praised for her acting, nothing she was cast in really took off. After 5 years in New York, Tallulah decided to broaden her horizons and moved to London in 1922. When she left for London on the SS Majestic...
Because of fucking course she did.
Fucking course she did. I cannot make this up. A crowd of fans gathered on the pier to see her off, and they were all like teary, and they're like, "We're gonna miss you."
Probably like all women, like, come back.
Oh yeah. So this next section is entitled "Hopping Across the Pond."
That's valid.
Yeah.
Good.
I was trying to think of something clever, and that's the best I came up with.
I think this is the first time I didn't title my sections.
This story got so long, I'm like, I need milestones as I'm reading
mine's
it.
bullet pointed. Just not milestoned, I guess.
Tallulah found success in London, appearing in a ton of plays and performing in They Knew What They Wanted, a show which won the 1925 Pulitzer Prize.
That's cool.
Yeah. She gained a reputation for spinning straw into gold.
Oh.
I gotta work on my enunciation because my mouth gets in the way and it's a problem.
And the tired, like we had to work today. We're not used to that.
Oh, and I gotta work tomorrow. fucking hump day, guys. Okay, so she gained a reputation for spinning straw into gold when it came to the plays she was in. She wrote of one instance where she saved a show from disaster on opening night. Quote, "In the second act, I came on carrying a monkey. On opening night, the monkey went berserk. He snatched my black wig from my head, leaped from my arms, and scampered down to the footlights. There he paused, peered out into the audience, then waved my wig over his head. As monkey's getting shit done, he's like, I have your fucking hair. This is my trophy.
He's like, what you gonna do now, bitch?
I'm gonna take a giant dump in it and throw it at someone.
Probably.
The audience had been giggling at the absurd plot even before this simian had at me. Now it became hysterical. What did Tallulah do in this crisis? Because yes, she speaks in third person sometimes. I turned a cartwheel. The audience roared. After the monkey business, I was afraid they might boo me. Instead, I received an ovation.
For doing a cartwheel?
I guess.
Okay.
You know what? They didn't have the internet.
Simple times.
These people were starved for fucking attention. But still, the fact that, like, this is a disaster to have the animal go berserk on opening night.
Do a cartwheel.
And she just was like, I fucking got this. It's like when you can laugh at yourself, I feel like it's almost just like, whoop. You know, oh, this isn't a big deal. It's like when you fall
and then you, like, pretend you stuck the landing and everyone laughs. Yeah, it's one of those.
Enjoying her success, our girl was living it up. She bought a Bentley and would drive it around London. Unfortunately, in another Emily-esque move, she was terrible with directions and would call a cab to find her when she got lost, and then she would have the cab driver lead her home while she followed them in her Bentley.
That's fantastic.
That's like getting lost, calling an Uber and being like, oh, I'm at the corner of this and this.
I just need you to drive me home.
Paying them to drive there and then to lead your ass home.
Right.
Fucking love it.
That's great. This was back then there was no GPS. The cab drivers were your GPS.
Yes. Yeah, they had to know what the fuck was going on and where everything was, which is horrifying.
I don't need a cab. Well, I do. But I don't need to get into the cab. I just need the cab to lead me where I need to go.
At some point, you have to know that they probably knew who she was. Tallulah's lost again. Go fucking find her and lead her dumbass home.
Right. They just had, like, her number, like, starred.
Yes.
Like, oh, it's that one. Who wants her? She tips well.
Yeah, I fucking hope she did, because that's just bizarre. Maybe she was ready to take her career to the next level, or maybe she was sick of getting lost in London. But after 9 years in London, Tallulah decided to take on Hollywood.
Woo-hoo.
Next section, hooray for Hollywood! While in Hollywood, Tallulah hosted boundary-free parties, probably to spice things up because she thought making movies was boring as hell. She once asked a producer, Irving Thalberg, how do you get laid in this dreadful place? That's like...
So she was almost having, like, a version of, like, key parties.
Kind of. I mean, drugs, alcohol, sex, whatever. Yeah. I mean, it was old Hollywood. Shit got crazy.
Right.
Irving replied, I'm sure you'll have no problem. Ask anyone. Tallulah must have taken his advice because she was a very sexually liberated lady. She had relationships with many notable women, including Greta Garbo, Billie Holiday, Alla Nazimova, Hattie McDaniel, and more.
Dun, dun, dun.
I actually found a really helpful infographic that lists out all of these old Hollywood actresses and directors and women and links them to who slept with who. And it is a
Insane.
magnificent tapestry of lady love.
Yeah, I can imagine. Just by, like, the few women I looked at that were from that, like, time era, and they were like, oh, all these people slept with all of this, like, these people, and it was insane.
I found a listicle, and when I was trying to find women to cover, and a lot of the women from this time...
Did it have, like, 15 women on it? Because I think then we would have read the same listicle.
I don't remember, but basically, whenever they listed out the famous women that the woman slept with...
They would be like, oh, and this person, again, small town.
It was always Greta Garbo.
Yeah.
Or Oscar Wilde's niece, whose name I'm forgetting, and I feel really bad about that.
Lily?
But I think it was Lily.
I think it was Lily.
But there was a lot of overlap.
Yeah, there was a ton. And I know in the list I read, yeah, one of them was like, it was a tiny town, apparently.
I love that.
Even though, you know, it's New York. It's
well, this was in Hollywood.
But, you know, like that scene, it's not that tiny.
Well, even Eva, who she had a relationship with in New York, comes back. Like, she's a lifelong friend of Tallulah.
That's what I noticed in my story, too, is that a lot of the women, even when they broke up, they stayed friends.
Which I love. Like, what a mature thing. If it's a toxic relationship, fucking cut ties. Don't feel bad about it. But just this idea, and it makes me think this must have been a pretty small community because being out was not accepted at this time. And these women had fame and money to help back them up and shield them. But you gotta stick together.
Yeah.
Tallulah also had romantic relationships with men and was married to actor John Emery from 1937 to 1941. After their divorce, she told a reporter, "You can definitely quote me as saying there will be no plans for a remarriage." So marriage was just not her thing, and she probably didn't want to die from childbirth like her mother and her maternal grandmother.
Like, yeah, I know what's in store for me.
And the cycle. There is actually, okay, I did talk about the chart in my notes. There is actually a fucking chart that details all the old Hollywood actresses who had relationships with each other. It's insane and I love it.
I might have to see if I can find that.
I haven't.
On the blog.
We will post it on the blog and I will share it on social media because I have it saved on my computer because I was like, this is fucking gold. When it came to talking about her sexuality, Tallulah was very open. She never used the word bisexual, but she often described herself as ambisextrous. So I think she was just kind of open to...
whatever.
Yeah, 2 or more genders, at least. So, I like that word, though, ambisextrous.
Yeah, I do too.
Like, what a sassy thing to say. And I don't even know if the word bisexual was common at that time. Like, was that even in the...
enough for the historian to say she didn't go by it? Like, it must have been common enough.
Well, maybe it was just that she never described herself as bisexual, which is how we might identify her today.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I guess we'll never know.
So she's so far described herself as a lesbian and ambisextrous. So, in 1931, Tallulah starred in a movie called Devil and the Deep. in which she received top billing over Cary Grant, Gary Cooper, and Charles Lawton, which was kind of a big deal.
I was like, fuck, Cary Grant? Really? Wow.
Yeah. However, Tallulah was looking for more than the $50,000 she was paid. She would say, darling. And yes, every time I found a quote of her saying darling, it's spelled Dahling.
Yep.
So, darling, the main reason I accepted the part was to fuck that divine Gary Cooper.
That's awesome.
Like, and just the fact that she's so open about it.
Right.
Like, being a member of the LGBTQ plus community, and then being
so
a woman.
Sexual, yeah.
Yeah. Unfortunately, Tallulah contracted a venereal disease she claimed was from George Raft, who was the guy who played Spats in Some Like It Hot, which is a movie Kelley and I love. Because I was like, who the hell was this guy?
That's awesome.
Yeah. But she had, well, the VD was not awesome.
No, but
the Some Like It Hot connection was awesome. Because of the VD, she had to have an emergency hysterectomy.
Aww.
She almost died during the 5-hour surgery and weighed only 70 pounds by the time she left the hospital. So she was not in good shape. Before being discharged, she told her doctor, "Don't think this has taught me a lesson." Like, just let that sink in for a minute.
She's like, I'm still gonna fuck around.
She's like, hey, I've got needs, and I will fulfill them, and fuck you.
Speaking of that, do you want to fuck?
Yeah, I mean, was the doctor hot? Like, back to Broadway. After recovering, Tallulah returned to Broadway. Then a little movie called Gone with the Wind popped on the scene, and Tallulah was one of the first choices for the leading role of Scarlett O'Hara. However, they felt that Tallulah, at age 36, was too old to play the role of 16-year-old Scarlett. Vivien Leigh was eventually chosen for the role. She was 26. Like, I know 10 years is a lot.
It can. Well, and especially if she lost all that weight, and, you know, that can kind of change how you look. So.
It can age you a bit.
Yeah.
Tallulah was, however, offered the role of a sex worker in the film, which she politely turned down. She's like, what? No, what the? Fuck you.
Right.
Okay, I don't get the lead, but you'll let me play like...
But you'll let me be in the film, but as a whore.
Yeah. Instead, Tallulah performed in the play The Little Foxes as the lead character Regina. Whoa, sorry.
I like Regina better.
I feel like there's like a hint of a Freudian slip in there.
Yeah, a little bit.
And she fucking killed it. Her performance won her Varieties Award for Best Actress of the Year, and she was featured on the cover of Life magazine. Tallulah described it as the best role I ever had in the theater.
Wow.
And the character she played was really cool too. She's married to this kind of spineless guy, and her father is dividing the business up amongst her like dumbass brothers, and so she has to use her cunning and drive to like kind of work through her spineless husband to get what she feels she's owed.
Yeah, that's actually really neat.
Yeah, so I mean, she's super cutthroat and manipulative, but kind of because she had to be, because her father would never have considered her.
No, she was a woman.
Yeah.
Themes.
Yep. I kind of want to see that play. It
know.
sounds really cool.
I would watch it with you.
We could watch the movie because there was a movie and Betty Davis played the lead. And when Betty Davis played the role of Regina, I keep wanting to say Virginia. That's what I'm trying to say. Virginia. It's like vagina, Virginia. I don't know. So when Betty Davis played the lead role in the film version, she modeled her performance after Tallulah's, which is really sweet. Because Tallulah killed it, and like that was the end. She wrote the word on Regina. In 1944, Tallulah starred in her most successful film, Alfred Hitchcock's Lifeboat.
Oh, I didn't know she was in that.
Yeah,
I haven't seen it. But
she plays a plucky reporter, plucky but cynical reporter.
Watch that.
Yeah, I didn't get too much into the movies and plays she was in because one, they're old and I've never heard of them.
I've heard of Lifeboat, but
and
that's
two,
it's an Alfred Hitchcock film.
This shit was already getting too long. Her role in this won her the New York Film Critics Circle Award. When she accepted the award, she said, "Darlings, I was wonderful." Like, she loves herself.
I got this award.
Yeah, she's like, I fucking earned this. Thank
That's
you for
funny.
recognizing how amazing I am,
Oh,
because
that's
yes,
funny.
I am amazing. Tallulah was also politically active. She heavily campaigned for Harry Truman's 1948 re-election and is credited with significantly helping him get elected, primarily by shitting on his opponent a lot, but still.
Hey, anyways.
She was even invited to sit with Truman during his inauguration.
That's huge.
Yeah. There is also a side
I
story.
bet she boned that.
You think she fucked Harry Truman?
I have no idea.
Wild speculation. But there was some governor who was splitting the Democratic vote.
Yeah.
And he rode on a float during the inauguration parade. And when he went by, she booed the fuck out of him. She's like, I was working so hard, you son of a bitch.
That's funny. That's great.
Also in 1948, the Kinsey reports were released. These were 2 reports on human sexuality, one devoted to male sexuality and the other to female sexuality. The Kinsey reports were pretty controversial as they expressed the idea of the sexual spectrum and of the female orgasm. Le gasp. And so
That's
this is where the
point anyway.
Kinsey scale comes from, which is the idea that sexual attraction orientations on a spectrum.
Yep.
Which I didn't realize these were, or that was from this.
Yep.
Like I'd heard of the Kinsey scale, but so that was cool. Tallulah remarked on the Kinsey report saying, I found no surprises in the Kinsey report. The good doctor's clinical notes were old hat to me. I've had many momentary love affairs. A lot of these impromptu romances have been climaxed in a fashion not generally condoned. I go into them impulsively. I scorn any notion of their permanence. I forget the fever associated with them when a new interest presents itself. So basically, women get horny too, and she loves to have sex with people.
Right, and she just goes with whoever takes her fancy at the moment.
Yeah.
She's like, I'm not here to be permanent.
Adults having consensual sex and a woman embracing her sexuality.
Yeah, it's wonderful.
You go, girl. And here's the thing. If you're like that, just be safe. You go, you
Right.
do you. If you're really not into sex, that's also fucking fine.
You
I
do
don't
you.
care. As long as it's all consensual and healthy and safe, you do you and whoever the hell else you want.
There you go.
Tallulah's sexuality and relationships with both men and women won her a place in the Hays Committee's Doom Book. Have you ever heard of the Hays Code?
No.
So the Doom Book was a list of 150 actors who were seen as immoral or unsuitable for the public. For anyone who doesn't know, the Hays Code was basically a morality code that movies had to follow to provide suitable films for the public. Some of the laws in the Hays Code included villains not being able to win in the films. So like a villain always had to get their comeuppance at the end. No profanity. This included taking the Lord's name in vain. So you couldn't say Jesus Christ. So this podcast is anti-Hays Code.
Way in the Doom Book.
Not suitable for the public consumption. No suggested nudity and no interracial relationships. Because, yeah, it was a different time. It was a worse time. And we're still feeling the effects of that, though.
Right. It's still bullshit.
Now take a moment to imagine all of the movies that could not exist under these laws.
Like all of ours.
So many. It's fucking awful. Tallulah knew what was up because she called the code's namesake, Will H. Hayes, a little prick. Tallulah was listed at the top of the Doom Book under the heading Verbal Moral Turpitude, which is basically she says shit that's not appropriate.
Yeah.
Like, hey, I like to have sex. And you're a prick. Though she was living an intense lifestyle, which consisted of heavy drinking, sleeping pills, sexy finger quotes, scandalous relationships, and 150 cigarettes per day.
Holy shit.
Self-reportedly 150 cigarettes per day. Like,
holy shit.
how many cigarettes are in a pack?
I
20?
don't even know.
Like, good God. So despite all this, she kept performing through the 50s and 60s. She was in movies, plays, on television, and the radio.
That's insane.
One of her later notable performances was as Blanche Dubois in A Streetcar Named Desire. Apparently, that character was inspired by her because she was
so
buddies
cool.
with Tennessee Williams.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh God, it all makes sense because Blanche is like soups dramatic.
Yeah.
However, her performances were originally too campy, and Tennessee Williams said she was, quote, the worst I have seen. Tallulah revised her performance, and then Tennessee Williams said, I'm not ashamed to say that I shed tears almost all the way through, and that when the play was finished, I rushed up to her and fell to my knees at her feet. The human drama, the play of a woman's great valor and an artist's truth, her own, far superseded and even eclipsed to my eye the performance of my own play.
So basically, it's like she probably did it up too much the first time, and then she actually like did really well.
Yeah, it was just too campy and non-serious the first time, and then the second time she basically rocked it so hard that even the playwright was like, I could never imagine this majesty from my own fucking play.
Right.
So there is so much that I'm leaving out.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. There's
Like
a bunch I left out for my person too.
Yeah, like there was this instance with her, Lucille Ball, and Desi Arnaz where she was on drugs and pissing them off, and like read more about Tallulah because her life is absolutely insane, but this is getting long and I need to cut the line somewhere. On December 12th, 1968, Tallulah died of double pneumonia, which was complicated by a combination of emphysema, malnutrition, and the flu. That's
Jesus.
How much shit it took to take this lady down. Let's remember, she survived an emergency hysterectomy that she came out of at 70 fucking pounds.
That's insane.
Crazy. Allegedly, her last words were a request for codeine and bourbon.
That's
Oh
gonna be
my
one of
God.
us. That's gonna be one of us.
Tallulah.
Except it'll be whiskey, codeine, and whiskey.
Oh my, I could rock some bourbon. I mean, I'm not going to be picky. But seriously, like, if someone asks me how I'm doing, I'm just going to be like, just give me the codeine and bourbon. I'm having a rough time.
That's funny.
Tallulah was buried in St. Paul's Churchyard near Chestertown, Maryland. So I think we could still go to her grave. I think it's still around.
Sweet.
Which is great. Legacy. The Isaac Schiffman building where Tallulah was born is now a historical landmark, and there is a marker erected to commemorate the site of her birth, which is pretty sweet. Tallulah also has a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, which, I mean, she fucking better.
Oh, yeah.
She was like a Hollywood queen. Tallulah wasn't just a phenomenal actress, but her openness with sexuality, relationships with women were revolutionary for the time. Tallulah lived her life out loud and apologized for nothing. She crafted herself into a legend and said, I don't give a fuck what people say about me, so long as they say something. Nice. And that's Tallulah Bankhead.
Yeah, that's awesome.
The fucking queen of Hollywood, the ambisextrous actress, the legend herself.
That's amazing.
Fucking love her. Worth the 4 goddamn pages.
That's funny. You're funny.
And now I get to sit back and relax because I talked way too much.
Now you get to listen to me. So I'm gonna start off with typical descriptions of the woman I'm covering. So all of these are in sexy finger quotes.
I love it.
Starstruck, a lover to the stars, a social butterfly, the dyke at the top of the stairs, the greatest star fucker ever.
I love that you went in order of like, from like, oh, that's sweet and sexy to, oh my fucking God, the dyke at the top of the stairs and the star fucker.
The greatest star fucker ever.
I think I found the second half of our episode title.
Yeah, right? So the woman I'm covering is Mercedes de Acosta.
Ooh.
She was born in New York City on March 1st in either 1892 or 1893. People aren't really sure.
She was lying about her age.
Right? They don't know. Her father, Ricardo de Acosta, was born in Spain and later immigrated to Cuba and then to the United States. Her mother, Michaela Hernandez de Alaba y de Alba, was also Spanish and reportedly a descendant of the Spanish Dukes of Alba.
You tackled that like a champ.
Thanks. Mercedes has several siblings, Ada, Ricardo Jr., Angela, Maria, and Rita. And she attended elementary school at the Covenant of the Blessed Sacrament on West
Covenants.
79th Street in Manhattan, where Dorothy Parker was her classmate.
Nice.
I don't know who that is. I assume someone important.
Oh, you don't know Dorothy Parker?
No.
That's okay. I don't
Oh,
either.
I was like, are you shitting
No,
me
I
right
was
now?
I was joking.
Right? So they lived in a rather fashionable area of New York City, on 47th Street between 5th and 6th Avenues, where their neighbors included such personalities as former President Theodore Roosevelt and the William Vanderbilts.
Oh, damn.
Yes.
I know who they are.
Mercedes' parents often took part in the genteel social activities of the neighborhood.
What are genteel social activities?
Like the higher echelon, like,
Like
tea.
sewing circles, but the thread is gold.
No. Although, did you know, it's not in my story because this was somebody else, but did you know sewing circles used to be code for closeted lesbians in this time?
Yes!
Yeah.
Oh, it was someone coined that term.
Yeah, it was
sewing
another
circles.
famous Hollywood person, I think.
I think we definitely read the same fucking list.
All right.
I'm really glad I told you who I was doing now.
Yeah, right.
This could have been really bad.
Over her life, Mercedes was involved in numerous lesbian relationships with Broadway's and Hollywood elite. She did not attempt to hide her sexuality, and her uncloseted existence was very rare and daring in her generation. Although, obviously, she had some good company.
Mm-hmm.
She was notorious for walking the streets of New York in mannish pants, pointed shoes trimmed with buckles, a tricorn hat, and cape. Her chalk white face, deep-set eyes, and thin red lips and jet black hair slicked back with brilliantine prompted Tallulah Bankhead to call her Countess Dracula.
Oh my god. So she's like this...
That's where your person came
This
in.
like glamorous punk
Goth chick.
goth lesbian. Love it.
So, to start her string of affairs, in 1916, she began an affair with the actress Alla Nazimova.
Who was in mine?
Yep. In 1917, she established a long-time relationship with Isadora Duncan, who was a famous dancer of the time.
Mm-hmm.
But in spite of her desire for other women, in 1920, she contemplated marriage to Abram Poole, a wealthy portrait painter whose family was in the social register, which at the time was like the wealthy people of the area.
They like kept a list of all the wealthy people.
Did. They called it a register.
I wonder how much money you have to register for that.
I don't know. So he did propose to her, and she balked, saying, "I couldn't make up my mind. As a matter of fact, I was in a strange turmoil about world affairs, my own writing, suffrage, sex, and my inner spiritual development." However, she finally did agree, and she married Abram Poole in 1920. However, they divorced 15 years later in 1935.
Yeah, it's what happens when you marry someone out of a sense of social normativity obligation. Sexual normativity.
Undoubtedly contributing to her turmoil in marrying him was meeting the young, attractive, ambitious actor Eva Le Gallinet.
Who was in mine too?
Just
Drink?
3 days before she was supposed to get married.
Okay, drink every time our women overlap.
Right.
Just do it.
Soon after her honeymoon to Abram, she began a 5-year romantic relationship with Eva.
You go, Eva.
So, yeah.
Eva and Mercedes and Tallulah.
Well, Eva toured around the country in 1922 in the play Lilium. She mailed Mercedes 3 to 4 letters daily.
Holy shit.
During this time, Mercedes wrote 2 plays for her, entitled Sandro Botticelli and Jehan d'Arc. After the financial failures of both plays, they ended their relationship.
Oh, bummer.
Yep. In the 1920s, however, Mercedes was a figure in both the city's high society and also in its drag clubs and speakeasies. There were, quote, "These were the years guided by the spirit of the new," she wrote. "We were on fire, with a passion to create and a daring to achieve." End quote.
So it was a fun time.
Yes.
It was a good time.
Yep. Equal to the times that were changing, Mercedes was a forward-thinking student of Eastern religion and a strict vegetarian. So, like, she lived this wild lifestyle, but then she was like, Buddhism's pretty sweet, and also I don't eat meat.
Alcohol's vegetarian.
Yeah. As an early feminist, Mercedes advocated, along with her friend and lover, the Isadora Duncan, the elimination of uncomfortable and restricted fashions for women. While other women were lacing themselves into corsets, Mercedes was often seen wearing trousers.
Did she have a pants permit, though?
I don't know. It doesn't say
Did she have a
needed one.
permit for those trousers?
No, because her trousers not pants. Over the next decade, So we're still in the 1920s. So between the 1920s and 1930s, she was involved with several other famous actresses and dancers, including Greta Garbo, Marlene Dietrich, Una Munson, and Russian ballerina Tamara Plantanova-Karsavina.
Ooh. There were a bunch of Russian ballerinas in the mix.
Right. There were also rumors that she had affairs with Pola Negri, Alora Duce, Catherine Cornell, and Alice B. Toklas, but they are unsubstantiated.
Okay.
So no one's sure if that happened.
Whining about Herstory headcanon, it did.
Yep. So, going back to Greta Garbo, they met in 1931. They were introduced by a friend, and for the next 12 years, they had an unpredictable relationship. At times, Greta would shower Mercedes with flowers and gifts, and Mercedes would become so enamored that she pasted photos of Greta into her Bible.
Oh my God.
They vacationed together, sunbathed in the nude together, and lived together for a time in 1932. She even convinced Greta to visit her tailor and get a pair of trousers. The two caused quite a commotion on Hollywood Boulevard. "Garbo in pants," the headlines exclaimed. Considering what walks down Hollywood Boulevard now, Mercedes said, "it seems strange that Greta and I should have caused such a sensation."
That's hilarious. Two women wearing pants, and it's headline material.
Right. I think that's funny.
I mean, if you think about it, how many pictures of actresses without their makeup or in hoodies get in the tabloids, and it's
thing.
like, Renee Zellweger in sweats? What?
Right, like, Jesus Christ, chill out. Everyone likes wearing sweats.
Sweats are God.
Right? So according to Mercedes' longtime friend Ram Gopal, once Mercedes met Greta, all she did was dream of her. However, Greta was afraid of having her life exposed, and one of Greta's close friends, author Salka Viertel, stated that, their relationship was very erratic and volatile, with Greta always being in control.
Oh, bummer.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not healthy.
The two were very close sporadically and then apart for lengthy periods of time when Greta, annoyed by Mercedes' obsessive behavior and coupled with her own neuroses, would ignore her.
That sucks. Yeah. Like, for both of them. I'm not trying to blame someone.
Right? No, it's terrible on both ends.
They're just clashing because of the way they're treating each other, but then their own issues.
Yep. In any case, they did remain friends for 30 years, during which Greta wrote Mercedes 181 letters, cards, and telegrams.
Good God.
Cecil Beaton, a close friend of both women, recorded in his memoir in 1958, quote, "Mercedes is Greta's very best friend, and for 30 years has stood by her, willing to devote her life to her."
Aww.
Yeah, so that was like, aww.
I'm glad they could stay friends, and I hope it was a healthy friendship, you know?
Yeah, on and off. The last poem Mercedes wrote for Greta was in 1944, after Greta had pretty much rejected her and told her that she didn't want her around anymore.
Oh, okay, never mind about what I said before.
Mercedes wrote, "You belong to me. Some things just belong to other things. There is no other way. Why not let us then say, for example, the salt to the sea, a bird to the sky, and you to me." So that was the last poem Mercedes wrote to Greta.
That's sad.
Yeah.
I wanna like romanticize it, but that whole "you belong to me,"
I know, it's a little creepy.
It sets off red flags for me.
But what's interesting is that Greta was the one always in control of their relationship.
Yeah. And so for Mercedes to try to kind of flip that script.
Yeah, I think that's interesting.
Yeah. Or it's almost like we are inherently intertwined. A bird is in the sky. Like
Right.
we can't get away from each other.
Yeah.
Which is a little true. They were just
Yeah.
connected at the hip and intertwined for better or for worse.
Right. At one point, when Mercedes was with Greta and Greta was being particularly aloof, Mercedes engaged in a love affair with another screen goddess, Marlene Dietrich. Though Dietrich was married, it did not prevent her from showering Mercedes daily with bouquets of roses and carnations. When Dietrich was setting off for Europe, she wrote, "It'll be hard to leave Hollywood now that I know you."
Aww.
She mailed Mercedes dozens of letters and telegrams, always signing off with love and kisses, saying, "I kiss your beautiful hands and your heart."
Aww.
Right? I'm like, why didn't you just stay with her?
Oh my God.
On one occasion, when Dietrich knew she would be late arriving to a dinner party hosted by Mercedes, she sent the following message. Except that message got deleted. But it was something basically, about like, don't go to bed without me, please wait for me. It was like really sweet, but
Wait
apparently
up
it got
for me,
deleted
please.
from my notes.
I miss you.
Right? Mercedes also wrote a poem for Marlene that read, "For Marlene, your face is lit by moonlight, breaking through your skin, soft, pale, radiant. No suntan for you glow, for you are the essence of the stars and the moon and the mystery of the night."
God,
I like that poem a lot better.
they were so fucking poetic back then.
I know. Well, she was a writer.
That's nice. See, like, my romantic texts to my boyfriend are basically, I love you so fucking much you have no idea, you
Right?
sexy so-and-so.
Right, exactly. So at one point during all this, Cecil Beaton, her friend,
Okay.
accompanied her to the theater one night in 1930. He wrote in his diary that he sensed people looking at him and questioning why he was associated with, quote, "that furious lesbian," end quote.
Oh my god, that might be what I name this episode instead.
Furious
the
Lesbian.
Furious Lesbian.
She often boasted of her sexual prowess, saying, quote, "I can get any woman away from any man," end
Oh
quote.
my god.
There was perhaps justification for Alice B. Tulkas's observation, quote, "Say what you will about Mercedes de Acosta, she's had the most important women of the 20th century."
This is true. I mean, a lot of these women, because they were running in a lot of the same circles.
Right?
It's fucking awesome.
Right.
Because these women were important and they were successful and they were powerful and they had money. And for them to be able to be so open
Right.
at that time is mind-blowing.
The one sad thing is, because Mercedes didn't have that money, like she wasn't, she wasn't an actress. And even though, she was with Isadora and Eva and Greta and, Marlene, she was usually portrayed as something of a perverse psychopath.
What?
Yeah.
I bet it didn't help that
bit
she
sad.
was a person of color.
Yeah.
I bet that made her a target too.
Probably. In the early 1930s, Mercedes developed a stronger interest in Hinduism and was encouraged to seek out Indian mystic Meher Baba when he arrived in Hollywood. For several years, she was captivated by his philosophy and methods, and he often gave her advice about ways to address her problems. Later, she studied the philosophy of Hindu sage Ramana Maharishi, who introduced her to yoga, meditation, and other spiritual practices she hoped would ease her suffering. In 1938, she met Hindu dancer Ram Gopal in Hollywood. They immediately established a rapport and became close, lifelong friends. Later that year, they traveled to India to meet Maharishi. That's pretty cool. When she was asked about her religion, Mercedes once said that although she had grown up Catholic, she would be, if she had to be anything, a Buddhist. So it sounds like she wasn't super into religion, but she's like, if I have to pick one.
Yeah. It seemed like it made the most sense to her,
Right.
and she sought it out.
I think it was like
her
the
therapy.
the spirituality of it. Like,
Yeah.
not necessarily like the religion portion. Later in her life, Mercedes immigrated to Paris, where she lived during the 1950s. By 1960, Mercedes had returned to New York destitute and in poor health.
Oh, no.
To relieve her situation, she published her autobiography called Here Lies the Heart. While the book is often considered the greatest lesbian kiss-and-tell memoir, Mercedes was careful to avoid directly specifying the sexual nature of her relationships.
Greta Grebo instead of Greta Garbo?
I don't know. No, I think she just never said, like, outright, like, yeah, we were banging.
Oh, okay.
However, as a result of this, Greta did terminate all communication with Mercedes as a result.
Well, because I'm sure everyone knew.
Right?
Like, you don't have to say a name. You don't have to explicitly say what was going on. But it's like, hey, wasn't Mercedes and Greta, weren't they, like, really, really close? Like, during the time when Mercedes is writing about being in love with this beautiful woman?
Yeah, and I don't know what she wrote, but it has been republished, and I'm like, and I kind of want to get it, and I might.
I love that. The greatest lesbian kiss and tell.
Right? I'm like, oh, that's kind of cute. So yeah, its implied homosexuality resulted in the severance of several friendships, not just with Greta. Eva Galline, in particular, was furious and denounced her as a liar, stated that she invented the stories for fame. However, this characterization is inaccurate since many of her affairs and relationships with these women, including Eva, are confirmed in personal correspondences between the parties.
So she basically outed everyone and they were pissed.
She technically didn't, because she there was implied homosexuality, but she never actually came out and said, yeah, we were lesbians together.
Yeah, but it's everyone knew what it meant.
Yeah.
And I mean, here's the thing. I think that she should have been able...
I'll read more about I'll tell you more about that.
I'll let you do you.
So it did receive excellent reviews, but the sales were slim. And though the book discusses all of her female friends, there is no direct reference to their lesbianism, but many of her readers were still outraged by the implications. So that there was no direct, she just talked about their friendships, and people just kind of took it how they would.
Okay. But
yeah, in that time frame, if you knew those women, yeah, she basically outed them.
And I mean,
meaning to.
I kind of understand people being upset. I feel like she has the right to tell her story. And a lot of these women were living life pretty out loud, but to have someone else kind of take control of that narrative, especially in a time where it was super not okay to be out, I kind of get being upset.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And so in addition to Greta ceasing contact with her, she also, when she would see her on the sidewalk, she would snub her, and she even refused to see Mercedes on her deathbed.
Oh, shit.
Eva, years later, when a friend found a gold wedding band in her attic, 10 years after Mercedes had died, and asked what it was, Eva snatched it away and threw it down a well outside her home and grumbled it was from Mercedes.
Oh, so it was like a wedding ring, promise ring. Oh,
Eva would also storm out of rooms in disgust when she heard Mercedes' name mentioned.
Oh my God.
Yep.
They really fucking hated her.
She told everyone that she thought the book should have been called Here the Heart Lies and Lies and Lies.
Jeez.
An exception to all of this hate and anger was Marlene Dietrich, who continued to correspond with her and told her she loved the book.
That's awesome.
Yeah, right? She was like...
I'm glad she had someone to support her.
According to critic Patricia White, if she craved being seen, Mercedes was more careful about what she said than she is given credit for. She wrote a name-dropping memoir, but for something attacked for exaggeration, it barely alludes to homosexuality.
So she wasn't making a list of, hey, I had sex with this lady and we were in love. She was
basically like, hey, this is my life and these were my friends.
Yeah, but everyone kind of knew what was going on and there was some implication and
right.
But she wasn't trying to explicitly out everyone.
Yeah.
Okay.
In any case, she gained a reputation that was not appreciated by everyone, and as Alice B. Tolkis, lover of Gertrude Stein and Mercedes' longtime friend, wrote to a disapproving critic, "Say what you will about Mercedes, she's had the most important women of the 20th century." So that quote came back.
I mean,
right? I know. It's kind of awesome. So after a life surrounded by fame and glamour and wealth, Mercedes spent her last years in loneliness and poverty. She suffered a variety of illnesses later in life and required several painful surgeries and was forced to sell all her diamonds to pay her medical bills.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, it's kind of sad.
This is bumming me out.
I know. The ending's like
she's living this awesome life. She's loving these amazing women. She's killing it. And then shit just kind of takes a sharp nosedive.
Yeah, it's a little bit sad. I'm trying to find the end. Mercedes died at the age of 75 in New York City and was buried in Trinity Cemetery in Washington Heights, New York. So it's kind of sad.
I mean, 70's not terrible for that time, but the fact that she was lonely and in poverty sucks.
So Aftermath is the next section. Mercedes has usually been described despairingly and dismissed as a notorious lesbian who is a dishonest nuisance to her lovers and who consistently stalked Greta Garbo. Greta's biographers, for example, assess their relationship from Greta's perspective, in which Greta is fundamentally blameless in their difficult relationship, a perpetual victim of Mercedes' alleged irksome behavior. But Robert A. Schenck, Mercedes' recent biographer, attempts on the basis of extensive research to provide a more accurate picture of her. She was, Schenck acknowledges, flawed and imperfect, a complex woman who impaired several of her relationships and failed to achieve her professional and romantic aspiration. But he reveals her as an exceptionally lively, intelligent, and dynamic person. She was, he argues, a brave lesbian of her time and a person of integrity who remained kind and loyal to most everyone with whom she crossed paths. He suggests that many denigrating portrayals of her may derive from the deep homophobia of her generation.
I was going to say, she was brave enough to write about it.
However, Karen Swenson, who is one of Greta's biographer, and Schenck, the Mercedes biographer, have identified a few significant errors in Mercedes' account. Nothing listed what they were. However, the memoir has been recently discovered in the 1960s, or was recently discovered in the 1960s, and widely read around the gay community. In spite of its inaccuracies, it is now recognized as an important contribution to gay and lesbian history.
Well, yeah, because no one was writing about that.
Right.
It's a unique look, as vague as it might be, into being a lesbian at that time.
Yeah. She did write some poetic work during her life. She published 3 books: Moods, which is a bunch of prose poems, in 1919, Archways of Life in 1921, and Streets and Shadows in 1922. After her death, composer Joseph Hallman memorialized her in the song cycle Raving Beauty for flute, harp, cello, and soprano.
Psycho Raving Beauty. I love
Psycho. It's a song cycle.
Oh.
Called Raving Beauty.
I thought the song was called Psycho
what?
Raving Beauty. I'm like, oh, because she was called a psycho lesbian. She's taking it back.
Right. She did also write dozens of plays. However, only 4 were ever produced. She also published her memoir. And that's still around. But yeah. That's Mercedes.
Man, go Mercedes.
Right.
That's fucking amazing. I think that's really interesting how her story is seen through Greta Garbo's biographers.
Greta was so famous.
Yeah.
And Mercedes really, other than sleeping with all these women,
Yeah, she was probably seen as kind of a hanger-on, and I'm sure, it sounded like the issues with their relationship were a two-way street. And it sounds like
it's kind of the to the victor go the spoil. So it's like she was the famous one. So her biographers are like, no, she was blameless. And it's like,
Yeah, here's the thing. I haven't read about Greta Garbo, but it kind of sounds like she was struggling with her own sexual identity.
She didn't want to be out at all.
Even though she was involved with a lot of these women, she didn't want to admit it,
right?
And didn't want anyone else to know. And so I think that's why she had that rubber band thing with Mercedes,
right? And
why that book was fucking it.
Right. And the thing I love about Mercedes, and I actually pulled a lot of this research from her biographer, is that I love that he's like, I'm not saying she was perfect. Like, she was a flawed individual. I'm just saying that it wasn't all her fault.
Oh, absolutely. It was
like, and I love that. Like, he's not like, I'm not gonna, whitewash is not the correct term I'm looking for, but I'm not going to put on the rose-colored glasses.
I'm not going to sanctify her.
Exactly. Like, no, she was a flawed individual, but her story deserves to be told. Like, and she doesn't just deserve to be shunned as this, psycho lesbian.
Yeah. That's awesome. I love it. And that's a great example of how history taints the stories of these women sometimes.
Right.
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome.
All right, Tallulah and Mercedes. I'm surprised that they never crossed paths. They never.
Right? They obviously did at some point because Tallulah called her Countess Dracula, but
fucking love it. I hope it was like in the most endearing terms.
Right. I assume so. Because and I think Mercedes was older than Tallulah.
Oh, okay.
By a few. Because when was Tallulah born?
It was like 1902.
Yeah. So they would have been about 10 years apart.
Okay.
So maybe that's why they never... But I'm pretty sure some of the other women were younger than her. But yeah, I think it's funny that, they loved a lot of the same women, but they never, came in contact with each other. Or if they did, they never had that relationship with one another.
Right.
But yeah, here's two women living life out loud in a time where no one wanted them to do so.
I fucking love it. Cheers. Clink. So,
I went first last time. What do you think?
Oh, you went first. Kelly's fucking ready. She's
jumping the gun. You already called me out on the Twitter thing.
Emily, don't you fucking dare make me go first. Okay. I am really thankful because I just demoed my upstairs this last weekend, which is one of the reasons we're recording on a Tuesday, because I was demoing on Friday and I was so confident that like, no, I'm going to be fine. I'm just going to suck it up. And we ran into some issues. We're not nearly as far as I wanted to be. And I'm like, I need to fucking get this done. So Kelley, thank you for accommodating me in my craziness.
Well, thank you for accommodating me in my like tired ass and desk assembly and unassembly on Sunday that made us not be able to record on Sunday.
But I'm really thankful that Jared and I were able to demo the upstairs. I'm looking forward to, we're gonna remodel it a bit and it's gonna be so much nicer.
And it's gonna be a space for you guys. Like it's gonna be something you did together.
I never want to leave my bed once this is done. I'm just gonna live upstairs.
So if our recordings get a little weird, it's because I have to go over to her house, crawl in her bed, and then record our podcast.
Yes. We're gonna just cuddle and podcast, and it's gonna be beautiful.
I'd be totally game for
We're
that.
gonna change it to the Cuddle Cast.
The Cuddle Cast.
Cuddle Cast.
Whining about Herstory Cuddle Cast.
Yeah. But I mean, I'm also thankful my dad lent us a ladder. Jared's dad lent us some tools. Like we've got support in this, so it's really nice. So yeah, that's what I'm thankful for.
Thanks.
I was able to take out some of my rage.
You're right. There's a place you can go and like smash dishes.
Oh, like the smash rooms?
I'm like, I really want to do that.
I do too. Because have you ever seen like an antique hutch in someone's house and you're like, God, I just want to take a bat to that to see what would happen.
One time, one of my old bosses, got so mad that the guys I worked with, like put a chair, like an old shitty chair outside and like gave her like a crowbar and was just like, go.
That's fucking awesome.
So she just beat the hell out of it until she felt better.
Because we have rage too.
Right? I'm like, that's what I need. I don't do punching bags because I hurt myself. But something like that. I'm going to go with I'm thankful for my family. So I'm going to be working from home soon and I needed a new desk. So Justin and I went to IKEA, but we also picked up my sister. And then what was supposed to be like an hour trip to IKEA turned into like a 3-hour trip to IKEA.
You should have known that's what was going to happen when you went to fucking IKEA. Part of it was
like the fucking 45-minute line at the end.
Jeez.
Yeah, it was ridiculous. So we were late for like a family get together, but like everyone was super chill about it. And so I'm thankful for my family and my sister for coming to IKEA with us. I mean, she got shit she wanted to. So it's
I was going to say, going to IKEA
right?
is a pleasure.
I literally only bought like 3 things and I was so proud of myself because I just bought like the 2 end pieces and my desktop and that was it.
So there was one
that's
time.
Not true. I bought a plant.
Ooh.
That was my not desk purchase.
Nice. You can put it on your desk though.
It's gonna go on the shelves above my desk. And it's like a little hanging. It's not live because I kill plants, but it like looks like one of those hanging plants. Yeah.
There was one time Jared and I had to go to the VA and up in the cities, and going there fucking sucks.
Oh, I'm sure.
And so what we've decided to do is like I'll have to take the day off work.
Yeah, so you make a trip out of it.
Yep. So we're like, okay, well, we're going to get lunch afterwards or do something. And so one time we ended up going to IKEA afterwards.
IKEA is dangerous.
It was the first time I'd ever been there.
I love IKEA.
I always thought it was dumb how they've got like directions all over the place. You need it. There was an entire floor I missed. And then we had like,
that's funny.
We were going to meet
There's
up with
only like 2 floors.
I know. But we were going to meet up with his mom later. And so we had extra time to kill. So we went through again.
Oh, that's funny.
And we were looking for like bed sheets and curtains. Yeah. And we found it. I was like, what the fuck? How did I miss this? It's a cavern.
Super funny. Well, yeah. And then there's like shortcuts. So if you like don't realize you're taking a shortcut, yeah, you'll miss sections.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, so we kind of quick walked through the upstairs, which is all like their display areas.
Yep.
We paused in the desk just to make sure I knew what I actually wanted. And my sister kept going because she was going to go look at curtains. And then, yeah, like downstairs is all the like pick your own, like, yeah, that's where it took forever.
Fucking love IKEA.
I know, I
and
do
their
too.
fucking meatballs.
I've never had them. Like all the time I've never actually eaten at IKEA.
Except
for their like $1 yogurt cones.
I haven't eaten at IKEA, but I've had the IKEA meatballs because you can like buy them, and I think someone made them and they were really good. All right, well, we were going on like an hour and 20 minutes, so I think it's time to wrap this up. Thank you so much for listening. Please rate and review us wherever you listen. 5 stars. It helps us out immensely. Also, follow us on Facebook, Whining About Herstory, and Instagram, WAH Pod.
Also, hit us up on our blog, whiningaboutherstory.com, or send us an email at whiningaboutherstory@gmail.com. Also, I'm going to make a Twitter, and it's going to be at WHA Pod, or whatever Twitter handles are. But that's what it's going to be.
And then at the beginning of next week's episode,
I'm going to do it tonight.
I'm going to just rake you over the coals until it happens.
Yeah, right.
Because I could totally do it.
But you're not going to, because I keep
to.
saying I'm going to.
Okay, well, thank you so much for listening to Whining About Herstory. I'm Emily.
I'm Kelley.
And have an empowered day.
Bye. Bye.